More NASCAR content? For all the latest in NASCAR, including driver interviews, race recaps, fantasy NASCAR, listener call-in shows, and awesome giveaways, tune in to the Lap Traffic Podcast on iTunes, Podbean, or your favorite hosting site with new shows every Tuesday night. Check out Lap Traffic on the web, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, and follow on Twitter at LapTrafficPC. Don't get caught chasing the lucky dog. Tune in each and every week to the Lap Traffic Podcast. See ya!
With the ButtKicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. ButtKicker, the future is feeling.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to playoff racing action as tonight on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. It's the Full Send Racing Series. It's a cutoff race to see who's racing for a championship next week. The round of 8 is coming to their conclusion. 8 drivers have made it this far, but they've got one more test before we can see who's going to be racing at Las Vegas, as those 8 drivers going to be Chris Stitz, already locked in after his win last week. Then following suit with the 22 is going to be that of Cole Sacchetti, that of Cameron Sarton, Ross Tatum. Those are going to be the 3 drivers inside of our Final 4, but just outside, needing some massive points or just win, and they're in. Going to be that of Rob Sherwood, Joshua Altis, Christopher Wade, and that of Aaron Hale. A lot of storylines that we'll talk about throughout the night, as here is your starting lineup here this evening. As for tonight here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, you got myself, Sam Dyer. Joining me is going to be that of Trevor Earhart, but getting that pull award going to be that of Cameron Sarton in the 24. Cole Sacchetti going to be getting second in the 42 with Ken Campbell in third. Ross Tatum going to be in 4th place with Aaron Hale in 5th. Will Bustler going to be in 6th. That of Rob Sherwood 7th. 8th goes to that of Daniel Keith Jr. Philip Chavez gets 9th. And Sam Siegel, surprising them all, going to get 10th place.
Rolling off 11th will be Joshua Altis. Doug Pierce is going to roll off 12th. Travis Dart 13th. Lucas Lyons in 14th. Nick Holland 15th. Drivers not taking time is going to be Zach Hall in 16th. John Dart 17th. Ryan Lynch 18th. And Brian Bruchette will round us out in 19th position.
As we're going to have 19 drivers set potentially here tonight. We'll see if all of them decide to take off, as we're going to be having tonight a pretty long race, 180 laps in total. But we are going to be having our stage break at lap 65, so the drivers are going to be having some time to reset, stable out. But we're here at Richmond, that of a 3/4 of a mile course. Trevor, short track racing, and we've seen short tracks bring a lot of tempers. That's how we started the playoffs off at that of New Hampshire. We're at a shorter track now.
Yeah, tempers are going to be, they're going to be up there. The intensity is going to be up there. The cutoff race to see who gets to the championship 4. 7 drivers coming in tonight, 3 in a good position to advance to next week in Las Vegas. 4 that need a win most likely, or some big trouble from their competitors to make it in. I mean, the last 3 races, Sam, have just been exciting. The late race drama last week in New Hampshire, the late race drama last week at Homestead, the big crash at Michigan before that, and now here we are at a short track. I cannot wait.
And drivers, and not sure what we're going to be seeing here tonight because of it only being 19 drivers, and pretty much everyone that's outside of our Final 4 in a must-win scenario. Drivers, we're expecting there is a chance that we could be seeing some drivers roughing up one another, trying to be aggressive, especially on the fact that since it's short track racing, damage and aero damage, Trevor, I'm not expecting that to be really a concern, so we could be seeing a lot of drivers trying to bounce off one another.
Yeah, we could see a lot of the chrome horn being used, as they say, to move your competitor out of the way, but pace cars getting ready to pull off, Sam. We're getting ready to go racing.
We got one more lap of pacing for these drivers. That of Cameron Sarton going to be up front with that of Cole Sacchetti. These are two drivers that are in the good practically. They have 20-plus points, have an advantage coming into tonight. All they need to do, get some solid points at our stage break. Practically just get points at the stage break, and you are in a very solid position. Those drivers going to be second and third. The driver in fourth going to be Ross Tatum. Tatum, he is still racing in a points battle with that of Cameron Sarton and Cole Sacchetti. Main reason why, he is battling to make sure he is not that bubble driver, because if Rob Sherwood, Joshua Altus, that of Christopher Wade, or Aaron Hale find themselves in a victory lane, they will be bouncing out that bubble driver. We'll keep on track on where the drivers are at, but right now the pace car is off, and we're green here at Richmond for the Virginia is a Racing Lovers 180 as we're green for the cutoff race.
And Sarton gets a good jump there on the 42 of Sacchetti. Sacchetti going to try to hold it to the outside, but he's going to get dived there by the 15 of Ken Campbell. And thinking back to last week, those two were not playing nice with each other on how hard they pinched one another. There at Homestead, we'll see here if Sacchetti decides to pinch that of the 15 of Ken Campbell down there, but gives him the room. And 15 trying to get him clear, but not going to have him cleared off turn number 4.
We've seen that Ken Campbell kind of being used up a lot in these past 3 weeks. Will he decide to be the aggressor on the inside, feeling comfortable, confident that lap 1 going to be led by Cameron Sarton as Ken Campbell moves up as our front 3 going to be in line with one another. It's the battle for 4th, where it's going to be that of Aaron Hale trying to hold off that of the 11 of Ross Tatum.
And Hale to the inside in that kind of must-win scenario for the 4 machine, coming in 29 points out of the top 4 spots. Just not able to keep it to the inside there of the 11 of Tatum. Tatum's going to get that position clear here going into 2, and Aaron's just going to have to follow suit.
Following in suit as 18 drivers take the green. You see that of John Dark deciding not to even start this evening, as he will be just on that visual watching of tonight's race. Race control is right on board the 4 of Aaron Hale. Must-win scenario, but it doesn't help that he's got everyone else behind him that are practically in must-win scenarios as well. That Rob Sherwood, Joshua Altus, very poor runnings last week, as well as that of Michigan. It has been a tough couple of weeks for the teammates from the SMB Motorsports team. So right on board with Hale, seeing that of Altus trying to hit into a better spot. His 4 machine is side by side. He's got the 2 of Sherwood trying to make the move as he'll bounce up into 5th.
And Sherwood's going to get that cleared, and that opens up the door for his teammate there of Altus down the back straightaway to the inside of the 4 machine for Altus. Really needing a good run here again in that must-win scenario. Got caught up in a wreck at Michigan and just never looked comfortable last week with that car at Homestead and struggled mightily there, but gets that pass done on the 4 of Aaron Hale, now following in his teammates' tracks there in 6th position.
As drivers deeper in the field having some issues for themselves, but also seeing some new effects here on iRacing. Been a big update that came out here this evening as drivers are starting to see some of the new effects. Wall riding has been adjusted for the drivers, so if they try any type of incidents, they could be having issues, but also we're seeing puffs of smokes when drivers just scrape the wall now instead of seeing and hearing a major collision. Trevor, the small effects, it's going to be a lot easier to visually see when drivers have their issues.
It's going to be easier to tell when somebody gets into the wall, but man, as a driver, that would slightly scare me a little bit. Just seeing puffs of smoke come up, you think there might be a wreck, could cause somebody to check up, could cause a bigger wreck, but and then the wall physics, I mean, that's something that the drivers are just going to have to get used to. Usually you can just bounce off the wall, keep going, but with the new update, I think it slows you down a little bit, and we'll just have to see how these drivers adapt to these changes.
Small little adapts that they're going to be having to deal with. But yeah, I think that little, knee-jerk reaction that drivers once were dealing with, you saw smoke, you let off, you weren't sure what was going on in front of you. Now, when you see smoke, you don't know if you're supposed to keep on gunning it in or just settle in your own path. As drivers have been moving up and down through the field, biggest mover right now going to be the 94 of Joshua Altus, but drivers deeper in the field starting to make some big moves for themselves. Going to be Lucas Lyons in 11th. Zach Hall, a driver that's been performing very well these last couple of weeks. Driver right now doing the non-playoff drivers. He's leading in that category. Came in late, but certainly has not been shying away from being a driver to watch out for this season. Has already been saying he's going to be coming back for next season. And Trevor, next season right around the corner for these drivers, just about a month away. And with that, the drivers will be switching vehicles from the Xfinity cars to the trucks.
It's going to be a fun switch for these guys. Go from the fairly difficult to drive Xfinity cars. They're really kind of, temperamental with how they handle from week to week. Go to the trucks a little bit looser, a little bit more of a wide open pace in the trucks. And I think, just based off of the season that they've had here and what kind of performances they've put on for us in the Xfinity cars, I cannot wait for next season in the trucks to see what kind of show these guys will put on for us.
It is so exciting to see how well they are going to be racing for themselves with drivers that are starting to show an edge. It's time to be making those moves forward. We're that of 13 laps into this 180. Our stage break is at lap 65. But the tire wear situation is starting to show as that of Ross Tatum trying to show the nose to Cole Sacchetti.
And not surprised to see Ross moving up. I think we talk about it pretty much every race. We'll see Ross drop back 1 or 2 spots, save those tires, and then make his run after about 15, 20 laps. But here, making that move to the inside of that of Sacchetti and the 42 machine down the front stretch, not quite able to get him cleared there through the middle of 3 and 4. We're going to take it all the way to the bottom here, the preferred line, down in 1 and 2, and going to get the 42 cleared. And Ross Tatum moves himself up to the 3rd position.
And also going to be seeing the 94 trying to bounce the nose to the inside. Joshua Altus, biggest mover so far, up 6 positions. And that is the biggest mover. Next driver that's up the most is tied for up 3 positions. That's Lucas Lyons as well as Brian Burchett. We're seeing the 94 trying to poke the nose and wanting to make this pass quickly because they're coming up to a little bit of lap traffic. That's one car. It's Doug Pierce and the 39 who had his issues about 10 laps ago with Zach Hall. 39 trying to just stay out of the way as we ride on board with Altus here.
Right to the back bumper there. Sacchetti might have thought about giving him a little bit of a bump, but going to try to dive it to the inside, use that 39 machine of Doug Pierce as a pick to help him get around the 42, but a little bit of a pinch there, maybe a little bit of contact between the 42 and 94 on the back straightaways. Also still trying to get this pass done. Now dives it again into 3 and 4. Might have him cleared here, but the 39 is going to be a big issue for the 42 of Sacchetti as these two continue to battle.
Question is, do they make the pass now or in the next 2 laps, or will there be contact as they're riding right on top of one another? Josh Waltis gets back into the throttle, able to finally get a little bit more clearance. Not completely clear as they continue to stay side by side in turn number 3. But here comes now that of Robert Sherwood, who's in the same track as Joshua Altus in a must-win scenario as that of Cameron Sarton. Gotta say, for that of Cole Sacchetti, this 42 cannot afford to lose more ground to Ross Tatum because that's more bonus points to be lose at our stage break. That's going to be pretty important on what drivers can point their way in or are in must-win scenarios.
Yeah, you would have thought, Sacchetti coming in plus 26 to the cutoff line was in a good spot, but only that of about 9 points clear of Ross Tatum for the bottom spot of the top 4. And if he falls back behind Ross Tatum based off bonus points and finishing order, one of these other drivers like Sherwood, Altus, Wade, or Hale get a win here tonight, that could knock the 42 out of the playoffs, out of the championship round. And Sam, he's been one of the more dominant drivers that we've seen all season, and that would just be a huge gut punch for the 42 machine in that team.
He just does not want to see this championship berth that he has been running all season long. That really was one of those top contenders that we could almost circle in and say, yeah, he's absolutely making the Final 4 coming into the playoffs. Well, have to make sure that he doesn't lose any more touch to Ross Tatum, who runs in 3rd, but being passed by now 3 drivers. Cole Sacchetti, one of our biggest losers, you could say, of the night, down 4 positions. But could this be a play here, Trevor, for the 42? I know it's difficult to make passes here at Richmond, but is this a bad decision to be dropping back just 20 laps into this race?
You would think it is, just based off of how hard it is to pass it. The further you go back, the more traffic you have to deal with, the more likelihood of a chance that you get caught up in a wreck as you go back through the pack. But maybe just for Sacchetti, just finding a comfortable spot to settle down as we see the 101 there of Chavez dive it to the inside of that of Doug Pierce as he cleared the 25 of Lucas Lyons. But back to Sacchetti, maybe just wanting to find that comfortable space to run in, thinking that the guys in front of him being a little bit too aggressive, racing around them, maybe trying to save his stuff, not get any damage, and see where he's at the stage break.
Oh, contact on screen. You see it there. Philip Chavez, Lucas Lyons, a little bit of a tap to the rear bumper to 101 as Lucas Lyons has been on the charge here in the back half of the field. Now make that pass. He's up 5 positions from where he qualified, and following suit, here comes Travis Dart to the inside. Trevor, this is incredible to see from the 25, but the struggles that the 25 has had all this during this playoff stint has been finishing races, but he's had some great performances of cutting through the field.
Yeah, we've seen Lucas just fly through the field at times with ease, and I think his biggest issue is just uses his tires up a little too quickly for himself, gets up there into the top 5, well inside the top 10, and then we see him fall off toward the end of a run, and then kind of usually gets caught up in some issues as the Chavez gets loose there off of turn number 4. But for the 25 now, I mean, up there in the 9th, maybe has a little bit something left. Looks like he started his run a little bit later than normal, so maybe has a little something left for these guys, and we'll have to see if he can move up any further.
And now we're starting to see drivers struggling to make passes by that of Doug Pierce. Pierce trying everything, fighting for every position. And for this 39, with how quick he was caught up by our leaders, he certainly has become more and more of a troublesome spot for these drivers further on back that are running practically identical pace laps as the 39. And big kudos to Doug Pierce running that second groove and able to hold off the 101 that we thought was going to make that pass easily.
And that's lost Chavez a couple spots, lost that to Lucas Lyons, Travis Dart, Nick Holland. And now Zach Hall's made his way up there in the 5 to that of the 101. He's going to go around the outside of Chavez. So Chavez just caught up behind that of lap traffic of Doug Pierce and just not able to do anything.
Not able to make up any more ground, but for now, Doug Pierce is the only driver a lap down. So if we get to that stage break, caution comes forward on lap 60. At 39 would get that lucky dog position, but we're still plenty of laps away. We're closing in on halfway here in just about that of 5 more laps. And for that, our leader right now, Cameron Sarton, what a dominant run by the 2-time champ, trying to go for his 3rd in a row championship. And Trevor, that is something that you don't see in very many leagues, is a driver dominating as much. But I gotta say, this season seems to be the closest it's been with the competition we've seen all season, with this 24 finally hitting his mark at the right time.
Yeah, and it took a while for Sarton to get going this season. Got that early win at the Roval, and then just kind of ran kind of in the middle of the pack, top, back of the top 5, middle of the top 10. Didn't really make any noise, but once the playoffs came around, that 24 machine has turned it up a notch, and he has looked good at the dominating performance at New Hampshire. And here he is tonight with a almost 3-second gap back to the 15 of Ken Campbell.
And visually, you're looking at this light starting to click on. But again, iRacing new update just coming into today. And that is what that skipping visually is the iRacing lighting system trying to stick with the car, and the shadows and the light just not working with one another right now. We are sorry if this is giving anyone a headache. This is on the iRacing side, not our side, as the new update still trying to get finicky, expecting a quick fix probably in the next couple of weeks to try to get this figured out.
Yeah, that can be really distracting for you as a driver. Usually, it's a pretty quick transition when the lights come on. When you're in the car, it's just a quick little shader flash for you in the car. But this might look a little different for these guys. We're on board here with the 15 of Ken Campbell. Can't really see. You can kind of see the dark area there up toward the wall as it flashes in and out. So just kind of another nuance the drivers are going to have to deal with tonight as the updates roll in. And it's going to make for an entertaining race, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that is something that's going to be so trippy for the drivers, because for some, they look for, points on the wall. They look for points on the inside, and if it's blinking like we're seeing on screen now, that could really throw off a driver. But in other ways, it could be good if you're a rhythm driver and you like to see rhythm points. That blinking stage actually might help you with where your braking points could be.
It comes down to driving style, like perfectly, like you just mentioned. A lot of drivers use markers on the wall, the sponsor banners as their braking points, turn-in points. Other drivers are rhythm-based. With the flashing of the lights, I mean, you could use that as your rhythm and really help you out. So this is, I guess, based on your driving style, is really going to determine how well you handle this transition.
And now I'm curious to see, with this new lighting system that iRacing has put in, when the lights are officially on and we no longer see the sun anymore, how is this track going to be looking illuminated? Because drivers have been talking about the fact that their cars, they're not sure how the cars are going to react with this when the lights are completely on, which in some ways, loving the new graphics, others, certainly some nitpicky things that we can see, but some great racing on track. Going to be battling for that 4th place. Going to be where the 2 of Robert Sherwood. Cole Sacchetti is on the charge. He's past that of Joshua Altis. Try and take those positions back to get right back to that 4th place.
Sketty taking maybe a page out of the Ross Tatum playbook there, saving a little bit of tire, dropping back, working his way back up through the field, got by that of Sherwood's teammate Altus in the 94, moves him back up to 5th, now looking around the outside. Interesting line choice. Usually we see a lot of guys running the bottom, but here at Richmond, you can run the top. It allows you to get a better drive off as you're not really pinched to the bottom, but the bottom line, the preferred line, is right here. We see it. Sacchetti just stuck to the inside line right behind the 2 of Sherwood. Just nowhere to go for him right now as he tries to set up this pass down the front stretch.
Trying to figure out where to place your vehicle. Do you go high, low? Where do you go? As the 42 trying to go with that early apex, dive it down low with a better release. And that was a fantastic launch by the 42.
Yeah, it looks like Sherwood got a little tight there out of turn 2, but covers off the 42 just good enough to pinch him down there, not able to get the drive off turn 4 like he wanted to. And again, going to go down here in this turn 1, see if he can get a better drive off, see if the 2 pushes up the racetrack again as they dive into 1. This time Sacchetti going to take a little bit of a look to the outside, cut it back down. Not as good of a drive off this time from the 42, but trying to set that 2 car up to get the pass done.
As the laps continue to tick away, we're coming up to the start of lap 40 for Cameron Sarton. That means we are with 26 laps to go in the stage. And again, stage points, top 10 drivers get those points, and just cracking into the top 10, that is Zach Hall, who had some issues earlier on with Doug Pierce, making contact with one another. The 5 now up to 10th and catching up to one of those drivers we were talking about who was the biggest mover in those first 40 laps. It's Lucas Lyons under the pressure as Zach Hall, this seems to be his MO. Whenever he starts these races, doesn't decide to put a qualifying time in, wants to learn how to carve through the traffic, and he'll see if he can catch up to the leader by the end of the race.
Yeah, and he's done a great job of it all season long, and just kind of keeps to himself there until about the stage break, and then we'll see that 5 machine up front, I'm sure, toward the end of the night, battling with those guys, but working his way up through traffic right now, trying to find a way around that 25 machine of Lucas Lyons, kind of silently stalking him out of the corner exit here. And for Lyons, done a really good job. Almost drove up to the back there of, I believe that's the 36 of Will Bustler. A little tight there as Zach gets right to his rear bumper. He's going to have a really good run here down the back straightaway. Is that 5 machine of Zach Hall? He's going to get this pass done maybe down here into turn 3, but Lyons fights back on the outside.
Fighting right on back as the 5 trying to get back into the throttle and able to do so as the 25 pushes up to the wall. Have to just blip for a second, keeping his nose close, but really going to need to push it aggressively. Too much. There goes the 25 high. Just too much speed carrying. And for that, Zach Hall easily makes the pass up to 9th place. The only issue is he's nowhere close to our leader. The Zach Hall running some pretty decent lap times for the drivers that he's around. The only fastest driver on track is our leader, Cameron Sarton. Continues to gap himself away as the battling that's going on for second place. Ross Tatum trying to gain at least one more position for this 11 for that extra bonus point to help himself out. But Trevor, looking at the lead gap, Cameron Sarton is in his own zip code now.
Yeah, 4 seconds, almost 4.5 seconds for the 24 machine, back to that of Kim Campbell in the 15. And I mean, since the drop of the green flag, Sarton has just been gone. But we've seen this before where, the car that dominates the first half, up to the stage break, doesn't necessarily always win. But right now, that 24 machine looks like it is on rails. And if he continues this pace, I don't think anybody's going to be able to catch him.
No, it's not looking close at all. And that is the one thing that has been crazy to watch. I'm trying to see any other drivers that are running decently close times, and there really isn't anyone. That Cameron Sarton, with that clean air, looking very comfortable for himself. Ken Campbell has done a great job fighting and defending, but back to this battle for 4th. That of Cole Sacchetti is caught up to the 2, but as always, it's easier to catch up to a driver than make the pass.
I feel like Sacchetti's been stuck here behind the 2 of Rob Sherwood for probably the last 15 laps or so. Sherwood again gets tight. This is going to allow the 42 to get a really good run here out of turn number 2. They're going to be side by side down the backstretch. But is he going to get it past done as he dives it hard into turn 3? Sherwood gives him a little bit of a bump on the attempt to cross him over, but Sacchetti gets that pass done finally on the 2 of Rob Sherwood.
Rob Sherwood just diving a little bit too much. That tightness too powerful, and that mistake attitude that last lap really hurt him. We'll see if Rob Sherwood's going to get out of the way for his teammate of Altus and just let the 94 take off and sail and see if he can try to attack that of the 42 as the teammates stay side by side. Just looks like Rob Sherwood willing to fight, defend as more laps tick away. Our stage break at the end of lap 65. Top 10 drivers get bonus points. And for these two on screen, they need every bonus point possible if they want to point their way into that of the next round. Otherwise, it is going to be a must-win scenario for either that of the 94, the 2, or the 4.
Yeah, and Aaron Hale's closed in on this battle as our 3 drivers that are in that, kind of must-win scenario. Sherwood, Altus, and Hale all on top of one another. Meanwhile, the other 3 are all pretty much on top of, Sarton's leading the race, Tatum's in 3rd, Sacchetti in 4th. They're doing what they need to do. Stitz taking the night off after he got his win last week, and then Christopher Wade not here tonight. So the battle for that transfer spot is going to be between that of Tatum, Sherwood, Altus, and Hale, based off of where they're running right now.
Sherwood's got to be careful because here comes Hale to the inside, and they've also got to be careful because they're going to be seeing that of the 5, Zach Hall, closing in on this battle if they can't clear up this squabble quick enough as they continue to stay side by side for now. The 4 of Hale not letting off in the 2, trying to make that outside lane work, which seeing drivers make the outside lane work in other vehicles here at Richmond just doesn't seem like the grip is there at this current moment for anyone to make that second groove work.
No, nothing Sherwood could do there as Hale got to his inside, wasn't able to get the power down, and that 2 machine gives up that position to the 4. So Sherwood falling back was all the way up to, I believe, that of 4th position there for a little while, and now falling back here to 7th as he's been passed by not only Sacchetti but his teammate, and then Aaron Hale, and he's got Zach Hall now that he's got to worry about here. So another spot that the 2 could lose before the stage break, and not too far behind him, that of Will Bustler is slowly closing in on this battle.
Looking at Will Bustler's time, and I don't know if he's got the same speed. I think he might be able to catch up to Rob Sherwood. Sherwood is just falling back so quickly. Those tires, they're burnt off. He has struggled every single time. He gets extremely tight. Just burns off more and more rubber as Zach Hall to the inside, trying to get that good launch for himself. As we are coming up to that of 11 laps to go, as Cameron Sarton crosses the line, top 10 drivers get those bonus points, and with where that of Cameron Sarton, Ross Tatum, and Cole Skeddy are, it will place Rob Sherwood, Joshua Altus, and that of Aaron Hale, Those 3 drivers are all in a must-win scenario if they want to move on to the next round.
Yeah, that's going to make the second half of this race, I think, really entertaining with those drivers going to be in that must-win situation. We might see some pit strategy calls, some aggression from those drivers as they try to get themselves locked into the championship race next week at Las Vegas. But right now, just trying to get to that stage break, get the adjustments made, or get those fresh tires and make those driving adjustments that they need to make to get up there and maybe challenge that of Cameron Sarton. But right now, Sarton again put another 2 seconds over that of Ken Campbell. Was 4.5 seconds, now up to 6 seconds. That 24 machine just continues to set a blistering pace.
And with how fast he is rolling, he has actually put down another driver a lap down. That is going to be Ryan Lynch, who will be our second driver a lap down for himself. The next on the list is going to be that of Daniel Keith Jr. As you see the pack that our leader is closing in on, it's Daniel Keith Jr., that of Brian Burchett, and Philip Chavez all on top of one another. And for this 24 machine, he's got to be careful because we're coming to the end of this stage. He doesn't have to try to make this pass on these drivers ahead of him. But at the same time, when you're in that rhythm, it's hard to back off, it seems like at times.
Yeah, if you're in a good rhythm like Cameron Sarton is, letting off could really just mess you up, can cause you to make a mistake, get into the wall, or have an issue. As right there, as we were on board with Daniel Keith, you see just a little bit of contact with the outside wall. That new update, a little bit of smoke coming off the side there of the 24 machine. But again, got to be careful getting through traffic. We've seen it all season long, how difficult it can be to get through traffic and what issues it can cause for the leaders as he closes in on the rear bumper here at the 23 down the front stretch.
As we're watching this close in, from the 24, as we're riding on board, yes, this is Daniel Keith Jr., back half of the field, but what are you noticing the major differences from these drivers that are in the back compared to our leader right now?
He just, for me, it looks like Sarton just has a really good entry into the corner, really nice, smooth arc, really gets the car, down there. I believe that's Doug Pearson, the 39 up there to the outside. But for me, Sarton just has a really smooth arc and entry into the corner compared to some of these guys, further back in the pack. And even the guys he's racing around, he's just able to get the power down wherever he wants in that 24 machine. Doesn't look like it's plowing on him and just turning good lap times. I believe he's still consistently a tenth or so quicker than the drivers around him.
He's starting to back off, and I think what I was talking about of him not wanting to put himself in any danger might be the case. He's now running. That last lap was a full second slower than Ken Campbell. That time around was almost a half a second off the pace. Cameron Sartin, I think he's just deciding we're coming down to just 4 laps, about to be 3 laps to go in this stage. I don't want to put myself in a bad spot. I'm going to keep myself a good buffer just in case these lap cars do get into trouble. I've got plenty of time to react, and I'm not putting myself in a worst case scenario.
Yeah, with what he had was a 6.5 second gap back to that of Ken Campbell. Easily enough space for him to just kind of ride behind that of Brichette, Daniel Keith. Let them battle it out for themselves. Don't get involved in that. Don't put yourself in a situation that can take you out of the race with such a dominant car. There's almost a little bit of contact between the 23 and that of the 33 as those two battle for 15th and 16th. But for Sartin, just ride behind. You've got 2 laps now to the end of the stage. Just collect your stage points and get on the pit road, get yourself 4 fresh tires, and get ready for the second half of the race.
Top 10 driver is going to be getting those stage points for themselves. It's going to be that of Cameron Sartin leading the way, coming up to the white flag of this stage. The 24 has been the dominant driver of the evening, and Campbell has been just sitting in second. At times, had to fight off Ross Tatum, but looking good for himself as around these last couple of bends, Cameron Sartin, the 2-time champ, trying to lock himself in for a 3rd opportunity to win a championship.
And he has just been on rails all night long, coming here to get that checkered, or to get the green and black checkered flag for the stage. Here is where we're going to wait for the 10th place driver Travis Start to cross the line before the stage break caution comes out. But Sartin has just been untouchable. King Campbell, once he got up to second, really did a good job holding off that of Ross Tatum. Sacchetti sorted himself back up into 4th, and Aaron Hale, made his way up to 5th. He lost a couple positions off of where he started, but worked his way back up to that fifth place spot where he had started the race at. So good job for the 4 machine as well.
Biggest mover so far as we hit our stage break could be that of Zach Hull in the 5 machine. Cameron Sartin going to be getting his bonus points. Same for Ross Tatum and Cole Sacchetti, as all those drivers, those 3, are going to be locked in unless now placed. The numbers are in. A must-win scenario has been placed for that of Aaron Hale, Joshua Altus, and Rob Sherwood. Those 3 drivers, it's time to see if they can show out and win here tonight as drivers are entering pit road. We're going to step aside as your top 10 going to be Cameron Sartin, Ken Campbell, that of Ross Tatum, Cole Sacchetti, Aaron Hale, Joshua Altus, Zach Hall, Rob Sherwood, Will Butler, and Travis Stark. Going to be your top 10. They hit pit road. You won't miss a thing as we go side by side. We'll see you in a few as we get to see the cutoff race here at Richmond.
The best, you got them for a breast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
They're wrecking, they're splitting, and it's a complete mayhem.
We have a wreck at the front. 19 goes down into the 7, takes out the 00.
They're 5 wide behind for fifth. Oh my, the 5 wide here, this ain't gonna work, is it? They're already wrecking in the entry of turn 1, and now coming through that of turn 2. This is it, the Daytona. Oh no, they're wrecking contact. Zeds gets into the wall, gonna be scattering on the outside. Drivers on the apron, drivers coming out of nowhere. Edison on the outside, trying to get the win, and it's William Edison stealing it at the line.
Into the wall. The 18 trying to block. 77 gets into the 18. That leaves 3 of TJ Roberts. 17 to Gavin Rogers. 3 of TJ Roberts is gonna steal the win here.
Went second fiddle so many times last season. Christopher Wade wins the season 5 Daytona 200. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for us to take it to the end of the race here at Richmond. You are watching the Full Send Racing Series, the cutoff race of the round of 8, and we'll be seeing some drivers smoking off the end of turn 2, there. As the 15 of Ken Campbell getting a little bit too close. The puff of smoke here, the iRacing update. There's still a little bit of blinking action for the lights, but we are excited to give you the coverage here of the last race of the round of 8. The cutoff at Richmond for the Virginia is Racing Lovers 180 here at Richmond on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Trevor Earhart, Robert Moyer Jr. running productions in the background. Our stage racing is done. The stage is set. We've got 4 drivers in a good position. Chris Stitz already locked in to race for the championship next week at Las Vegas. But that of Cole Sacchetti, Cameron Sarton, Ross Tatum, those 3 drivers based off of points would be locked in. But the 3 drivers that are racing here tonight, that being Rob Sherwood, Joshua Altus, and Aaron Hale, if they win, they can bounce out one of those drivers, but they are all in a must-win scenario.
Must-win scenario for those 3, and Altus right now looking the best of those 3. He's now worked his way up to 3rd, right on the back bumper there of the 11 of Ross Tatum. Sarton, the man who dominated the first 65 laps of this race, shot out of a cannon on the restart. He's already out to almost a 2nd lead over that of Tatum, who was able to get around that of Ken Campbell. Campbell came into the pit 2nd, struggling a little bit here on the restart, all the way back to 4th, as he's got Aaron Hale right behind him. And then the man who's been on the move all night long, Zach Hall, trying to crack the top 5 for the first time all night long as he rides behind that of the 4 of Aaron Hale.
And the question for Zach Hall, is he going to run for a win, or will he decide to run for that of protecting the playoff drivers? Because right now, everyone that's up front in our top 5, all playoff drivers, except for that of Ken Campbell, who is just trying to run his own race. We're on board with the 94. Joshua Altus trying a very aggressive entry, and Trevor, based on what we've been watching, that aggressive entry in early Apex, great in the early going, but man, does it hurt you on that leader run.
Yeah, it could really start to come back to hurt you there toward the end of the run. We saw it with Rob Sherwood. He was aggressive in the first half of the race. Same thing with Lucas Lyons. Both drivers aggressive, worked their way up through the field, but as the run progressed, fell back once those tires wore out. As we stay here with the 94 of Altus, just nowhere for him to really go. That of Tatum, just really good and patient. But back here, the battle for that of 5th, Aaron Hale, Zach Hall, Nick Holland, Travis Dart, all on top of one another. Zach trying to use the unorthodox line, the outside line, to get around the 4 machine, but not able to quite get that done. And Nick Holland just lurking there, trying to figure out which way he wants to go in that 68 machine to get around both these drivers.
I know Zach Hall, we watched him on that of Saturday night's race with that of the Next Gen Cup cars, and also seen him run in that of the Gen 6 Cup car about a year back. And with both of those vehicles, that second groove can work well with fresh tires. But the Xfinity car just does not seem like that outside lane is where you want to be. You're using up so much more rubber. And yes, it could maybe work for a lap or 2, but right now, Aaron Hale in the much more preferred lane, and as he is defending at this current moment, but Hall, a much better launch out of 2, and he's got to make this pass now, because I don't think that outside lane's going to last for very much longer.
Yeah, that's the one nice thing about that outside line. You can get a really good run off the corner. You're not as bound up down there on the bottom, but you've got to take advantage of it. Just wasn't able to get the 4 cleared. That allows that of Aaron Hale just to stick to the inside, but right here off of turn number 2, Zach's going to get that really good drive off. Hale gets a little loose, and that's going to invite Nick Holland to his outside as Holland decided to go with the 5. His contact's made between the 2. but a save there from the 4 machine, but that's going to lose another position for Aaron as he's going to get that spot up to Nick Holland, and now he's might lose another spot here to the 6 of Travis Dart down here in the turn 1.
From a position of, well, we'll just need a caution and maybe some fresh rubber and be off, sequence from everyone else would put Aaron Hill in a good position to try to go for a win. Well, now he's going to be falling back and into the clutches of drivers that he does not want to be around back here in 8th place. Aaron Hill got to be careful on where he's at this current moment as drivers up front. You look at our ticker. Ross Tatum has lost touch to our leader over a second, almost a 1.5 second gap between first and second already in just that of the first 12 laps of this run.
And not at all surprised to see that gap already be that big as we just saw what the 24 was able to do in that fresh air. After a couple of laps, is a little bit of contact to the outside wall. I believe that was the 94 of Altus. We saw the smoke off the side of that machine as he clips the outside wall, trying to get that big arc down into turn number 1 as he still tries to hunt for a way around the 11 here of Ross Tatum. Just can't quite get close enough to make a move on that 11 machine. And he's going to have to continue to ride back here. But Altus, in that must-win situation, needs to get around this 11 to see if he can track down that of Cameron Sarton.
Sarton you follow the leader, and all you're doing is following the leader at that point. And Cameron Sarton, if anyone's going to beat this 24, I think it's got to be a caution at some point, allowing drivers to get off sequence. But at the same time, off sequence is what we're going to have if we stay green. Drivers have been notified on the fuel run just about 100 laps they can go. And with our stage break being at that of lap 165, these drivers, if they want to somehow save fuel, they're going to have to save about that of 10 laps, which is a little bit too much to try to save on one run, as Zach Hall dives it down low for 4th place, trying to get by that of Ken Campbell. But Trevor, fuel strategy, tire strategy, that's going to be the name of the game here on when do you want to come into pit road if we continue to stay green, as we've got that of 90 laps to go when Sarton crosses the line again.
Yeah, the stage break at lap 65, go 100 laps on fuel, so that puts you around lap 165 on a fuel run. But do you really want to go that far on 100 laps on a set of tires? I think we're going to see these guys probably come down pit road about, I would think probably around lap 140-ish, somewhere in that range, I would think, just to get those fresh tires, 40 laps on a set of tires. We'll have to wait and see, but I think for some of these guys like Aaron Hale, the two of Robert Sherwood, who's all the way down in 16th, they're going to have to make a really aggressive strategy call here on these pit stops when they come around if they're going to have any shot at maybe winning this race and getting into that final 4.
Well, looking at the times for these drivers, usually it's around that of 2 seconds. And we talk about a big enough fall off for the drivers when, from your best lap to the last lap that you ran, if there's a 2 second difference, usually that's when you come into pit road when you're at a 1.5 mile track, those intermediate courses. Short track wise, Trevor, it seems like that 1.5 seconds usually is that realm that drivers are looking for. And for that of Cameron Sarton, he was about 1.5 seconds off of his best time when he was just that of around 59 laps into a run. So this 24 could be around lap 60, could be, 60 laps into a run, I should say, or even that of 75 laps into a run. I think that could be the window we're looking for, which would place them around that of lap 140. They could be thinking about pit road.
Yeah, and that, it's going to be interesting to see what these guys decide to do. And the other thing, and we harp on it. It seems like we harp on it every week, is the pit road mistakes. I mean, we've seen it throughout every league that we cover here on Freaky Fest. We've seen it here with these guys. Just, you cannot make a mistake on these pit stops once they come around, and because it can cost you not only a chance to win the race, but a chance to make it to that final 4 if you make a big enough mistake. So once we get to that point around lap, if you want to be aggressive with it, maybe lap 130, but that 130 to 140 range, we'll see these guys come down pit road, and we have to wait and see what happens. As Zach Hall trying to attack that of the 94 of Altus, who's lost a little bit of ground here to the 11 of Ross Tatum. The 94 starting to struggle just a little bit. I think might have gone a little bit too hard, too early, like you were talking about, is now he's under pressure from the 5.
That is the battle currently for that of 3rd place. Is Zach Hall, biggest mover of the night, up 12 positions. Well, he's about to make it up 13 positions if he can make this pass clearly now, as that of Joshua Altus. Try to be aggressive, bout a little bit of a shimmy there from Hall, who drifted up a little bit too high for his liking. Able to dive it down low, side by side, get ready for the drag strip onto the back stretch. The 5, the 94, He's going to be seeing the better run for Altus, but Hall in the much preferred lane heading into turn number 3, trying to make the dive bomb move, and he's going to be cleared. That's a pass for third for the 5.
Zach Hall up another spot, up 13 spots from where he started tonight. It's up to third. Now we've got to try to track down that of the 11 of Ross Tatum, as Altus now has to fall back in line. Can't look too far back behind him, though. He's got Ken Campbell slowly sneaking up on him, trying to get back up to where he was before the stage break. And then Nick Holland, quiet all night long, up 9 spots in that 68 machine back there in 6th position, not too far behind them. And as he's worked his way up here, you know, up almost into the top 5 in that 68 machine, so having himself a quietly good night.
And also, we got to give reports of drivers behind them. That of Aaron Hale up to 7th place. He's about to be under pressure again. He fell back after some hard racing with some of the drivers in the early portions of the start of this run after a stage break. He is now under pressure from that of Travis Dart. And behind them, you see him in blue, Cole Sacchetti. An extremely long time in pit road, getting some damage repair for the 42 machine. Went from battling up front for a top 4, top 5 position, now back to 9th. Cole Sacchetti, he's got enough points. He should be good from worrying about being bounced out of the playoffs. I think that of, you know, Ross Tatum is in a much more spot of concern, but a lot of this damage for the 42 looks to be on the front end where he's dealing with the damage.
Yeah, not quite sure how he got that damage in the 42. Looks like might have made some contact with somebody on pit road just based off of, you know, the damage to the nose of that car. So might have been a pit road issue for him, but back here in 9th position, and man, he's got a lot of work that he's got to do to get through some traffic to get back up there to where he was. And then back there in 16, Rob Sherwood, I mean, was in the top 10 at the stage. And Rob, another long pit stop for him back there in 16, just hasn't been able to make up any ground.
Went back, checked on how the 42 got that damage. It was around that a lap 90. Cole Sacchetti trying to get by Will Bustler. An extreme bump that he gave to that of the 36, and that was after our stage break caution where he was already dealing with some side pod damage. So the 42, he is just adding to his woes. Front end damage is not what you want at all, but here is that of the 2, Rob Sherwood, no man's land, and this has got to be frustrating for a driver that I think is trying an oddball strategy. And I talked about the fact that someone might try to not have to worry about coming into pit road. And at the pace we're seeing from Rob Sherwood, the fact that he came in topped off on fuel, he could be on that track to try to save fuel and try to save over that of 10 to 15 laps of fuel. This is going to be incredible if he somehow makes this work.
I would be at a loss for words if Robert Sherwood could make this work, but hey, I mean, he's in that position. He's got to try anything he can. Doesn't feel like he had the pace to get up there and battle with Cameron Sarton for a win, so why not take a chance and go for the fuel save strategy, see if you can make it work. And I think you're spot on. I think that's what he's trying to do here, and just by running a slower pace, saving that fuel. But the question is, you know, with the time he's giving up, even with the pit stops that the leaders are going to have to make, is he going to be able to make all that time up that he's currently losing trying to save fuel?
I think he might have gotten that go button, or at least he's starting to run similar lap times of everyone else in front, as he is running pretty equal times. That last lap to 2nd place runner Ross Tatum. Our leader, Cameron Sarton, though, he is closing in quickly, about 5 seconds off of this 2 machine, and his goal has to be put Rob Sherwood a lap down. You see that little speck in front of this 24 that we're riding on board with. That is Rob Sherwood, who our leader is trying to catch up to. But a lap times, 0.3 difference is Rob Sherwood was extremely off over that of a second off the pace. Now it's running pretty equal. I think that's a sign there, Trevor, that maybe Rob Sherwood feels like he's gotten to the point where he can make it potentially. And now he just needs to run consistent laps and not go a lap down.
And now that's exactly right. He's got to worry about staying on the lead lap here as Sarton slowly closes in the battle for second. Just saw it conclude right there. Not much of a battle as Zach Hall was able to get around that of the 11 of Ross Tatum to move Zach up to second, as he's slowly starting to maybe reel in that of Cameron Sarton, but Sarton's still a pretty healthy, almost 2.5 second gap back to those 2 drivers. But back to Rob Sherwood now, thinking he's good on fuel. Now he's just got to run his own pace, not make any mistakes, and hope that there's not a caution flag late into this run that could throw this whole strategy away for him.
And Zach Hall could be trying to play spoiler for that of Cameron Sarton's win. Now is finally clear and running pretty similar lap times to our leader is Zach Hall. Now the 5 I think he just needs a caution. It gets a caution, can reset, get some fresh rubber. I think this 5 machine could be a factor to watch out for as we're looking at the difference. Cameron Sarton has had the advantage, but last lap was, 2 laps ago, was Zach Hall being faster. We'll see this go around as the gap is about that of 2.5, a little bit more than 2.5 seconds. Oh, this is gonna be spicy if we get into a late race caution. Zach Hall slightly faster that lap. He's got at least, a lot more of a minimal gap to work with compared to that last stint where he was 7 seconds back. He's now just 2.5 seconds off our leader. Trevor, Zach could be that driver that's finally figured out this racetrack.
Yeah, and slowly worked his way all the way up here to 12th, worked all his way up here to second. He's figured out his driving style around here, what works for him, and slowly reeling in that of Cameron Sarton. And Cameron, didn't really pull out to a big of a gap as he did there in the first stint of the race. Pulled out to about a 6-second gap. Now only about that of 2.5 seconds over Zach Hall. As Zach just ever so slightly closing the gap, but I think he's going to need that caution to reset and have a chance here at the 24 machine.
See there, kind of Sarton going to be able to continue to try to gap himself, recognizing, oh, maybe I'm getting caught. Doesn't want to deal with those issues anymore. As some drivers thinking about coming into pit road. That pit window is open if you want to do an early pit stop, which, do an extreme undercut at this point. I think it's not the worst decision in the world if you want to try to jump up over someone else. And I feel like if you're Joshua Altus or if you're Aaron Hale, that has to be in your mind. Pit in the next 4 to 5 laps. Try to gain as much time as you can because our leader, a little bit over a second off of his best time. Put the pressure on making these drivers pit early.
Yeah, we've already seen the pit strategy for the 2, what he's decided to do. So now the question is, what is the 94? What is the 4 going to do? Are they going to come in early? Are they going to try to stay out late? Maybe hope for a caution and get the track position over the guys who come in a little bit earlier. But, they can't continue to do what the leader's doing because it's just not going to work out for them. They're not going to be able to make up that time. As, we're watching, Daniel Keith Jr., he's on fresh tires right now, was able to get by that of Altus. Tatum now running down that of Zach Hall on those fresh tires. You can just see the difference in speed that he has on those tires.
Lucas Lyons, another back marker driver, going to be coming into pit road to get service done like we're seeing the 23. Fresh tires. Yes, you might be further on back, but an advantage you'd love to see what drivers you can try to get by. But Daniel Keith Jr., he was further on back. He was about 10 seconds or more off our leader by the time that he came into pit road, and he is currently 2 laps down. Lucas Lyons, who's getting service for 4 tires and fuel, he is going to be falling to at least 1, potentially 2 laps down for himself, showing if you're coming into pit road, you are most likely to go 1, maybe 2 laps down if you're some of these drivers further on back. I think that is also the hesitation on why you don't do the undercut just in case a yellow flag comes out.
Yeah, putting yourself 2 laps down as the leaders continue to circulate under green and you're on pit road can just really end your night if there's a caution that comes out during the pit cycle. But, it's a chance you got to be willing to take as a driver to put yourself in a position to possibly steal a win away. And, I'm surprised that we're not seeing maybe a couple more drivers try to take advantage of that as Cole Sacchetti finally worked his way up to the back bumper of the 4 of Aaron Hale, even with the nose damage on that 42 machine. Worked his way up past that of Travis Dart and now has caught the 4. But, we've seen it all night. You can catch somebody, but passing them is another thing, especially this late into a run.
Lucas Lyons was hoping for an advantage. Well, issues coming out of pit road, gets a black flag and forced back into pit road is the 25. We talked about pit issues. This is the money stop. Drivers are coming up to Sam Siegel now into pit road as you see the driver falling down our ticker. But for that of Aaron Hale, first of our drivers that needs to think about going off strategy. And the 4, in 7th place, a decent run, but this is not the run if you're going to go challenge for a Final 4 opportunity, as next week is that last race of the season. Only 4 drivers make it out tonight. We're starting to hear drivers over the radio. Pit stops for Nick Holland into pit road for that of the 68.
Yeah, and here's that window now, the undercut window. Open it up here, lap 122 for these guys. Holland's going to come down. Sacchetti on pit road as well, and the 6 of Travis Dart. So 3 drivers going with that undercut. to see if they can get a jump on these guys that are staying out on old tires. So we'll have to see now if that's going to bring the 94 of Altus down to the 4 of Aaron Hale. Looks like Altus is going to stay out another lap. We'll have to see what Aaron Hale's going to do this time by. He's also going to stay out another lap.
Staying out. Yes, I mean, there's two opportunities, right? You stay out as long as possible, and you bank on a yellow to come out, so you're the only driver left on the lead lap, or you decide to go with the strategy of potentially trying to pit early, like we've seen some of these other drivers. Do you want to give note, with the fact that we're seeing drivers coming to pit road, Rob Sherwood has been put a lap down, and he is just slightly ahead of that of Cole Sacchetti. Gonna try to run down the 2 machine, as he is gonna be having the fresh tires and trying to run down the 2, which Rob Sherwood is in a spot where he is going to try to stay out as long as possible. For how much is this going to work for the 2, as we are coming down to the last couple of stages of this race? I mean, Trevor, looking at this field right now, a lot of different points. You got that of Cameron Sarton, the obvious favorite right now, dominating all of this race. He's led Bradley every single lap here tonight. You're seeing Zach Hall, our biggest mover of the night, up to that as second. But the rest of the field, I don't know how you're going to try to defeat this 24, as a couple of other drivers over the radio saying they're coming into pit road. That of Brian Brochette, still waiting on when we will see Altus and Hale come to pit road.
Yeah, I'm not sure what anybody can really do to get around that of Cameron Sarton, unless he has an issue on pit road, or there's a late race caution that gives these guys a chance to close back up and have a shot at that 24 machine. He's just looked so dominant as he gets passed by Will Bustler, who's on fresh tires. But, you know, for Sarton, it's just get on pit road, get off pit road as clean as you possibly can. Hasn't quite been able to pull away. You know, Zach's been able to keep that gap at about 2.5 seconds, you know, since he got around that of Ross Tatum, but just not been able to close in at all. And I think he's going to need, I think the field in general is just going to need a caution to have anything for that 24 machine.
When will they come into pit road? We're coming up to lap 130 here shortly, and we're going to take our last commercial break. Drivers entering pit road and exiting pit road. When we come back, we'll take it to the end. Who is making the final 4 for that of the Full Send Racing Series? We will find out here shortly, as into pit road now is going to be that of the 94, but you won't miss a thing as we go side by side. You're watching again the Full Send Racing Series, the cutoff race of the round of 8. Who's making the final 4 for that of the Virginia is for racing lovers 180 here at Richmond. We'll see you in a few. We'll be right back.
They're splitting, and it's a complete mayhem. no rear grip whatsoever. Up sideways. Sideways everywhere. Come on, man. Do what you can. The vibration in this car is the worst vibration that I've ever had, and the shifter's broken again.
Caution strikes in the middle of ourselves having a green flag pit stop. Drivers not able to cycle all the way through and get in line. We've got a huge that of a cluster of drivers not able to catch up to the front pack of our field. We got our top 6 and they're wrecking as the 4 Aaron Hale gets caught up with Rob Sherwood, able to get that 4 machine centered straight, but a little bit of contact, not bringing out a yellow. And chaos striking here this evening as drivers now going to be up front. It went from a pack of 6 now to a pack of 4 for our leaders. Only that of 10 drivers on the lead lap. And Trevor, this is a wild event that we're seeing right now.
It's been a very wild last 3 or 4 minutes or so. That of Altus, cold tires out of pit road, loses it in turn number 2, brings out the caution. Sherwood on that fuel save strategy of his out the window, has to come down pit road, gets the lucky dog. Then you just saw it right there, contact with the 4 of Aaron Hale. So those 2 now with damage, losing time to our leader. Zach Hall finally clears the 15 of Ken Campbell after the restart, and now has the chance to attack that of Cameron Sarton. And Sarton just trying to run away with it and see what he can do after he's dominated the whole race. Has led all but I believe 2 laps of this thing, as he cycled out. That of Ross Tatum led a couple laps under caution, as Ross was down pit road when the caution came out, had to cycle back around and pit. And it's just changed everything.
39 laps to go, and now it's only 4 drivers that are on top of one another. You got a big cluster of drivers that are going to be mired back, and that is 7th on back. You got lap cars and drivers that took the wave around. That's why we only have 10 drivers on the lead lap, and this is where we find that Cole Sacchetti dealing with some side damage. He got some of that front end damage repaired, and now going to be trying to pass the lap car of Sam Siegel. Nowhere close, about 4 seconds back is this 42 to the driver ahead of him of Aaron Hale, because not a lot of drivers were able to cycle all the way through from taking the wave around to catch up to the rear end of the field. That's why there was such a huge gaggle and switch up, and you see on our ticker, only that of 5 laps into this restart, and drivers are scattered everywhere on track.
Yeah, you have the top 4 that are about, a second gap between them. And it's all the way 3 seconds back, almost 4 seconds there to Rob Sherwood from Cameron Sarton. And then you've got Aaron Hale behind him. So, I mean, it's just spread the whole field out on this restart. But up front, Zach Hall trying to see if he can run down the 24 machine. But it looks like Sarton slowly starting to pull that gap out. But the 24's got to worry. That 5 car's been the second fastest car pretty much all night long, and now there's nobody that the 5 that Zach Hall has to pass to catch the 24. He's there now and can just try to slowly work that gap down.
Target is set, and Fruit Machine is on the way to try to figure out if he can get himself back into victory lane, while Mickey Mouse leading the charge up front. That of Cameron Sarton feeling good for himself in the 24. That gap is a little bit less than a half a second between our front 3, who are all right there. Ross Tatum just falling back. Going to be going into save mode for the 11 to save those tires and to see what our front 3 are going to do for themselves as the laps continue to tick away. If you're just joining us now, it has been a weird night here at Richmond as the lights have gone down. The only thing that's been pretty consistent is Cameron Sarton dominating this race. Zach Hall deciding not to qualify. He has been spent all race long to climb up into second. A late race yellow came out in the middle of green flag pit stops, where that of Joshua Altus self-spun on those cold tires, which has now put everyone in the grouping that they're in right now. Tonight, it is the cutoff race of the round of 8. We will only have 4 more drivers left to race for a championship next week at Las Vegas. And based on where they're running right now, those 4 drivers, Chris Ditz, based off his win last week at that of Homestead, feeling good. He decided not to show up for tonight's race. Cole Sacchetti, Cameron Sartin, and Ross Tatum are all in the good. But if Aaron Hale or if Rob Sherwood or if Joshua Altus find themselves in a victory lane, that will bounce out one of those 3 drivers I just talked about out of our final 4. But Trevor, based on where they're running right now, based on the speed that we're seeing from our front 3, I don't see any of those drivers in a must-win scenario being able to get it done as we're coming up to that of 30 laps to go here tonight.
Yeah, unless there's a late race caution and a tire strategy call, a 2-tire call or something like that from those guys. You know, back there of Rob Sherwood, Altus, or Aaron Hale, I just don't see them advancing as we watch Aaron Hale try to get around that of the lap car of Joshua Altus. Altus stuck a lap down after that spin for himself. So he's got to hope for a caution so he can get back on the lead lap as well. Aaron dealing with a little bit of damage after the contact with Rob Sherwood. So for those guys, I think they're going to need another caution to shake up the strategy to have a shot at this. Is up front, Zach Hall starting to slowly close that gap. Was about 3/10, now down to about 2 car lengths in turn 4. Is that battle starting to heat up for the lead?
Battle for the lead, and Cameron Sartin, usually at this point in a run, has already had over a 2nd gap lead on 2nd place of Ken Campbell, and that's exactly where the difference is for first back to 3rd. But this is the first restart where Zach Hall has been in 2nd place. The first time tonight that really Cameron Sartin's been in this scenario. And Trevor, when you get in those rhythms, you always talk about rhythms at short tracks. I mean, when you got a driver right down behind you and really putting the pressure, how does that even throw off a driver, or can they keep the consistent rhythm that they've been on?
You got to drive out the windshield. You can't drive out the rear view mirror, because if you start driving out the rear view mirror, you're going to start to get out of your rhythm, start to make little mistakes, and cost yourself some time. But this is the first time that anybody's been this close to Cameron Sartin. So Sartin probably doing a little bit of mirror watching to see what that 5's doing. Might try to take that line away from him if he gets too close, as we see the 24 just continue to run his line all night long. That he's been running that kind of late entry in, late arc in. That 24, Zach Hall right down to the yellow line on quarter entry here, but Sartin doing a good job of what he needs to do to hold this gap, but Zach's not going away.
Small little adjustments is what we're seeing for the 24 and the 5. Very different ways they want to attack these corners. The 5 painting that yellow line. The 24 just trying everything he can to try to pull away. The difference, their lap times are almost identical. Just small little gaps. Goes to the 5. That gap then gets pulled away by the 24. It is all small little moments as the laps continue to tick away. 25 laps to go here tonight at Richmond. And for the drivers that are in a must-win scenario, Rob Sherwood, Aaron Hale, they're back in 5th and 6th place. But over that of about 5-second difference is from 5th of the lead. So Rob Sherwood nowhere to be found. But if we see Zach Hall put the pressure on, could see that difference start to shrink down. Sherwood needs to find some extra pace at this moment.
Yeah, went for that, audacious fuel save strategy for himself. Didn't work out for him, got that caution. Unfortunately, was trapped a lap down, had to take the wave around, put himself at the back end, was able to catch up to the field before the green flag went, but then saw the contact with Aaron Hale, lost him some more time, so now he's going to try to find that back and hope that there's another late race caution that he can come down, maybe take 2 tires or 4 tires to get himself another shot at this as he continues to lose a little bit of time to our race leaders.
Race leader is going to be putting Daniel Keith Jr. a lap down. That is terrible news for the 94 of Joshua Altus. It needs to catch up to the 23, make that pass immediately. It's about a 6-second difference between that of 10th and 11th. That is the battle for the Lucky Dog spot, as Daniel Keith Jr. now going to be trapping these drivers. As you see, that's where the 94 is. About a straightaway difference is from the 94 to the 23. A bit bigger than you would like. But at the current moment, Altus is catching up to Daniel Keith Jr. as Daniel Keith Jr. seemed to be dealing with some major damage for himself. And for our leaders, they will have to worry about lap traffic at some point. We're coming up to 20 laps to go. The next driver in line for them to catch up with will be Travis Dart on the lead lap, but it's going to be that of Sam Siegel and as well, it's going to be that of Lucas Lyons that they're trying to get by. Siegel's going to be covering off the 5 who gets a poor exit. That's exactly what Cameron Sartin needs to see.
Yeah, puts a little bit of a gap, a car in between them, slows down that of Zach Hall a little bit there as they navigate that of the 48, but now got to get around the 25 of Lucas Lyons. Depending on where Lions goes, this could either slow up the 24 of Sarton and allow Zach to get that time back that he lost trying to get around Sam, or Lucas could stay high and maybe cost Sam a little bit of time. Looks like Lucas is just going to stay high here for the 24 of Sarton. Sarton going to have to take a little bit tighter line than he normally does down here into turn number 1. Doesn't get quite to the bottom like he would have liked, but good move there from the 25, realizing that, hey, these two are battling for the race lead. I'm just going to get out of your way. Pulls out of the way and lets that battle continue, but that of Sarton starting to pull a little bit of a gap now over the 5 of Zach Hall.
Next driver in line, and then the targets of our leader is going to be that of the 33 of Brian Burchett that we see on screen, as well as going to be that of the 6 machine of Travis Dart, who is going to be the first driver on the lead lap that the drivers might have to worry about. But Cameron Starr and Zach Hall, that little bit of lap traffic difficulty did cause some issues, but as they're driving along and trying to get by, drivers in the middle of the pack starting to have their own little squabbles showing, as it's going to be the battling for 7th. You see on screen, this is a little pod that's about that of 8 seconds ahead of our leader, and this is battling for position. That of Cole Sacchetti as well as Nick Holland, trying to get by lap traffic the best that they can, while also trying to figure out who's going to be in this 7th place position.
Yeah, it was two separate battles there between the lap cars of Will Bustler and Philip Chavez. That was the battle for 12th and 13th, along with the battle for 7th and 8th between Sacchetti and Holland, but Chavez decides to back out of it. Bustler's going to hang in front of that of the 42 of Sacchetti. Sacchetti right to the rear bumper, almost gave it a little bit of a shot there to the 36, but Nick Holland, again, just trying to find a way around that 42 machine. Holland's having a great run for himself, been quiet all night long, was up almost into the top 5 before the contact between the 36 and the 42. Sacchetti deciding, hey, you are slowing me up, you're in my way, and I think that put Will Bustler into the outside wall there after that little bit of contact between those two drivers. Is now they're that of Sacchetti and Holland are free to continue their battle.
And Cole Sacchetti, that's not the first time that he's made contact with the rear bumper of that of Will Bustler, but here comes Nick Holland to the inside. The 68 trying to get the better launch. This is battling for 7th place, but man, is it a good one, as we're starting to see this pod grow bigger and bigger, and this group, just that of 5 seconds ahead of our leaders, got a straightaway, and as we are ticking these laps quicker and quicker away for Cameron Sarton and Zach Hall, they're hoping that they don't have to worry about this pod, but with the way we're seeing them race, this is the opportune position that we could be seeing a caution come from.
Yeah, with how hard these guys are racing, we've already seen the contact between Bustler and Sacchetti, so I'm not afraid to use that front bumper if need be to get a pass done. Holland diving it in deep, trying to get to the rear end of the 42 of Sacchetti, not able to quite do it, going to lose a little bit of time here on corner exit. And right behind them, believe that's the 48 of Sam Siegel that's found his way into this group. Bustler now back there ahead of that of Chavez, so you have about 5 cars all right here in line on top of one another.
Yeah, it's going to be drivers on the lead lap, a little bit of lap traffic mired as well in between as a battle for the lead. We're talking about how close it was. Well, it's grown. Zach Hall tried everything. He threw everything that was in the kitchen sink at that of Cameron Sarton, and the gap now over a half a second. And for Zach, I think his opportune time to make the pass was in those first, 15 laps of this run. And now it's just survival mode of trying to hold off for 2nd place, as they got a pretty decent gap between Ken Campbell, Ross Tatum to the 5. I don't think Zach's in any security issues he needs to worry about, but Cameron Sarton, he obviously cannot make any major mistakes. Still needs to run every single lap the best that he can. 10 laps to go for that of the 24, who's hoping to lock himself into the final 4 and race for the championship next week. Which Trevor, coming to 9 to go, the championship next week certainly is not going to be an easy one at that of Las Vegas. As Cameron Sarton running well for himself up front. Got that over a 0.7 second gap lead. Talked about that lap traffic pod of drivers. Did not want to worry about it as a leader. And the timing could be there. Watch out. This could become an issue. Sarton, based on that last run when we were coming up to the end of the stage, was able to back off. He had plenty of a big grouping, a gap between himself and 2nd place. That gap is no longer there. If he lets off, Zach Hall is going to close in, and that could become a troublesome spot as he started to see the battling in front. We're on board with our leader. He does not want to see that squabbling now.
No, 7 to go, closing in on this lap traffic. Not going to have that gap like he talked about to really back off and keep himself safe. I can't quite tell who that is running wide right in front of him. So about 0.7 of a second there to Zach Hall. It's the 33 of Burchett that got a little wide in turn number 1. And Sam, he's going to hit this lap traffic before this race is over, coming to 6 to go. And the gap about 1 second, but this could really bring Zach back into this and give the 5 another shot here as these laps wind down.
And for Will Bustler and Burchett, they can't really give up. This is battling for position for themselves, and Cameron Sarton is closing in quickly. You thought maybe this would last until maybe 2 to go. Well, we're coming up to 5 to go, and our leader is there with the 33's bumper. Ryan Burchett already giving the nod. Go down low. I'm going to get out of the way. Will Bustler, expected for him to come over the radio soon to get out of the way, and that is exactly what Sarton wants to see. And for Zach Hall, oh, he was hoping for a better opportunity for lap cars to hold off our leader.
Yeah, I was hoping to see the 33 and the 36 to continue their battle, hold up Cameron Sarton just a little bit, give him another shot to get there. But, you know, just a classy move there by Brian Burchett to get out of the way, acknowledge that, hey, you know what, I might be fighting for that of 13th and 14th, but I don't want to hold up the leaders, you know, get involved in this battle. Gets out of the way. It looks like Bustler not quite as easy on pulling over here for the 24 machine, but decides to do it down here into turn number 3. But Zach Hall had a little bit of a moment out of turn number 2 behind them as we were watching, got loose out of turn 2, trying to catch up to the 24 as he gets through this lap traffic.
I think he got kind of giddy when he saw that the 24 was being held up there out of 2, and because of that giddiness, got back in the throttle too soon. That outside wall closed in a little bit too fast as we are coming to 2 laps to go. And for Cameron Sarton, he wants to see that white flag. When the white flag is out, this race is official. We won't have to worry about a caution. But Trevor, this is probably, besides that last lap, this is one of the more nerve-wracking laps to handle.
Yeah, you're hoping that you don't see the yellow flag. You just want to get through here, get to the white flag. You don't have to worry about anything once you get that white flag. Once you cross the line. And for Sarton, I mean, what can you say? He has just put on his show, has led every lap, but I believe too as he gets the white flag here.
White flag is out, the freaky fast white flag for that of Cameron Sarton. He was able to defend up front the best that he could. He got by lap cars. The lap cars are in between himself and Zach Hall. No longer have to worry about it. And because of this win, we know our Final Four that will race for a championship next week. And for the 2-time champ, he's going for 3 in a row as he gets to have some fun across the line. And he's going to wreck it coming across the line, having a little bit too much fun. And now he's got to be careful because here comes the rest of the field trying to get by our leader.
Yeah, just going to have to sit there and wait and let everybody get by. Tried to do a little bit of a drift crossing the line there. Got a little overzealous and overcorrected into the wall, but what a performance by that of the 24 of Cameron Sarton. Almost led this thing flag to flag. And you want to talk about a momentum builder going into the championship race next season. No better way to do it than put on an absolutely dominating performance at the race beforehand.
Only 2 laps were not led by this driver. And Cameron Sarton, we've seen him win here in other leagues, and he does it again. Richmond, the home for this 24, as he gets to have his fun seeing that of the 42 burning out. But for Cameron Sarton, he gets to burn it down, and now we know our Final Four that will race for a championship. It's Chris Stitz, that of Cameron Sarton, Cole Sacchetti, Ross Tatum. The stage is set. Las Vegas should be fun, but for us, we are going to step aside. We still got the post-race show. We'll be back in just a few moments. Welcome, everybody, to the Freaky Fast Broadcasting post-race show for the Full Send Racing Series. Tonight, you got to see the Virginia is Racing Lovers 180, where Cameron Sarton dominated the night, leading every lap but two. Incredible stats for himself. But before we talk to our race winner, we got some other drivers to talk with. We got third place finisher Ken Campbell with us. Sorry, Ken, for pulling you out of that conversation. Congratulations on a third place finish. Man, how are you feeling after that 180 lap run here?
Tired. That was a long race, but I feel like I won because I'm pretty sure that Cam and Zach aren't going to pass Tech. I mean, they were just in a different zip code the entire time. I didn't think anybody was going to catch Cam, and then when that late caution came out and Zach got a chance, I was like, all right, this is going to be a battle to the end, and I wanted to watch it. And they were too fast for me to sit behind them and watch it. But I'll have to go back and watch it on the broadcast because those guys were nuts.
I mean, Ken, the last 2 weeks for you have been just really good performances, 2 podiums in a row. Next week, Las Vegas, the last race of the season. I mean, you got building a little bit of momentum going into the last race, but how are you feeling overall going into Vegas next week and then going into next season as a whole?
Feeling really good about next week. Vegas, I like 1.5s, and I specifically like Vegas, and so feeling really good about that. But all the testing that I do, I'm just going to send it to Stitz and hope that I can get him a championship and Crumhorn a championship and finish strong. You know, Crumhorn, we were always kind of there this season, but we weren't getting the wins, and then Stitz got one, and so if we can end on a win and a championship kind of rolling into next season, that would just be fantastic.
And Ken, we're heading to Las Vegas, where we've seen in other vehicles, it being a draft-heavy pack racing type of a track. How do you think the team aspect is going to be utilized heading into next week?
I definitely think it'll be there. It may not be as obvious as, you know, the team aspect at a super speedway or something like that, but I think it'll be close enough that, you know, if you can just hold somebody up and hold your line and not roll over for them for 1 or 2 laps or something, you know, that may come into it. Or, you know, telling when somebody's pitting if they don't see it on their relative. It's really small details like that the team aspect can really shine, and you don't really get to see it on track as much, but it can definitely make a difference.
Well, Ken, congratulations on a third place finish here tonight. And before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, first and foremost, as always, thank you to my wife and kids for supporting me in everything that I do, sim racing included. My mom and sister and nephew for watching the broadcasts. I appreciate their support. Everybody at Crumhorn, Stitz wasn't here, Marty wasn't here. Nick he forgot about the 14 gig download, so he barely made it in session, didn't get any practice, and so I was glad to see him running well. Under Armour, Auburn University, Will Bustler for the paints. So if you want to look as good as I do on track, be sure to hit him up. Everybody in the league, MCI Graphics is the race sponsor, and you guys up in the booth.
That is going to be the 15 machine, which we got to give Ken a big shout out for all the data he gives us up in the booth. Congratulations again, Ken, on a third place finish, and good luck at Vegas next week.
Appreciate it, boys.
As we go from third place, we had to second place for the driver that had the most moves of the night, our biggest mover, up 14 positions from where he started. We got Zach Hall with us. Zach, you had the most passes. You got to have, I'd imagine, most of the drivers' most fun going through the field. But man, how are you feeling after that night?
Well, a little bit sweaty. That was a very, physical race, as they would say. I guess you could say it was definitely all over the place with the car. It was a little bit loose on the entry, a little tight in the center, a little loose off sometimes. So it was fighting it all over the place. But I had a great time personally. It was fun to drive up through the field. I gotta apologize first to Doug Pierce. I really feel bad because I just clipped him just a teeny bit on the bumper, and I was hoping he was going to catch it, but he just couldn't catch it, and it spun him out. So I felt really bad about that. So the first round, I kind of fell pretty far back trying to let him catch it there. But yeah, I learned a few things going up through the field, and I felt good, but I knew Cameron was really good. We seemed like we'd match lap times on the long run, so I knew I had to do something prior.
Zach, I mean, first of all, walk us through, just how hard was it to get through the field? And secondly, I mean, that last restart, you're up there next to Sarton. I mean, was there anything you could have done to get around the 24 machine at the end of the race?
Yeah, probably get a better restart. I'm still kind of fresh to these Geico restart zone restarts they have on iRacing, and when you restart on that outside line, it's kind of scary because it flashes at you and tells you to slow down, even though the guy on the bottom is kind of still pulling ahead, just because in the outer groove you got to carry more speed to stay even. So I kind of was like halfway back when we started, so I was immediately fighting for pretty much second, going down to one with Ken. And maybe if I had a better chance there to get straight off the get go, right on Cameron's back bumper, and had the freshest tires possible to try to race him, I think that was my best shot, because I didn't feel like if I saved, it was going to come back around to where I could run him back down and pass him. I felt like the clean air was just going to be so critical, because passing was tough. I mean, you brought it up. I mean, I was able to make a lot of passes tonight, but I can tell you it wasn't easy. It was really, you had to be very, very patient and really hope the guy in front of you made the mistake for you and overdrove it. So it was one of those nights, but I had a great time out there. These guys always race so good out here. Every person I race here races hard and they race fair, and that's really the big thing about racing here so far. And it's been a blast. So I can't wait to close it out next week.
Which next week we're heading to Las Vegas. Zach, how are you feeling about going to a track? We've seen a couple of aspects like Las Vegas, but this track's so unique from all the others.
Yeah, very unique. I'm interested to see how it drives. I had great feelings going in the Homestead last week because I felt like I've been pretty good on the mile and a halfs this year throughout the races I've done, and I struggled there. I need to go back and look at what I did wrong there and try to fix it at Las Vegas. And another thing, they got the Final Four going on, so I'm gonna run my own race, but I don't want to get in anybody's way. I don't want to affect any type of championship stuff. I know how that is fighting for that stuff, so. Just try to run my own race. If I can win it and just drive away from maybe the Final Four and, let them battle it out themselves, that's kind of the plan. So I like Las Vegas. We'll just have to see how it just works out.
Well, Zach, again, congratulations on a top 3 finish, finishing in second. Before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, first off, shout out to the league, man. Full Send Racing. If you see this league and you ain't a part of it, you probably should join it because these guys race so fun, man. It's a blast each and every week. So I got to really applaud them and all the admins for putting on a great show each and every week here on these Tuesday nights. And it's been really fun for me to do it. But also, shout out to you guys in the booth. Always doing a fantastic job and always working with you guys. It's always a pleasure. And then also thank you to Brandon Colley, always helping me out in the background and giving me lap times and telling me what I'm doing wrong and what I'm not doing right. So it's a big help by him too. So pretty much, and also everybody who out there is tuning.
That is going to be the 5 machine of Zach Hall. Congratulations on a second place finish and good luck heading to that of Las Vegas next week.
Thanks, guys.
As we go from second place, we head to Victory Lane, where I gotta say, what a dominant run it's been tonight. We got Cameron starting with us. Cam, what a run you had here tonight. You almost led every single lap, only 2 going to that of Rod Statham, who stayed out under pacing. But man, how are you feeling after that one? We heard everyone else saying it was a marathon and a real sweat fest. But man, how are you feeling after that?
Oh, pretty good. I am definitely pretty sweaty. But for some reason, this track just speaks to me. So I knew if I got the pole, I had the confidence of not getting beat. So I just stay consistent the whole race, and you got to find your groove here. And kind of once you find that groove in both corners, it kind of speaks to you. So just stay consistent and let the racing kind of play itself out. So luckily, there's no kind of weird cautions here and there that put me in a bad spot. So kind of played my way and just drove straight and didn't see a bumper all night besides some lap cars. But overall, pretty good and excited to race for a championship.
Speaking of racing for that championship, I mean, what a way to build the momentum going into Las Vegas next week. Like Sam said, dominated here tonight, but Cameron, I mean, how are you feeling after this performance? We go to Vegas, a 1.5 mile track that, multiple groove racing there. I mean, how do you feel about going in and defending your championship and going for a third?
I feel pretty good. It's definitely going to be a toughest one yet with Cole, Stitz, and Ross in the Final Four. I believe Ross is in there. So 3 really fast guys. So it's going to be a battle for sure. So hopefully the setup is looser than normal It's kind of where I tend to strive. When it's a little tight, is when I struggle a little more, just kind of using up that right front. So if the steps are really loose, kind of practicing throughout the week, I feel really good. Tight, it's going to need some work, but I got a shot at it. So I got a 1-4 chance and right where I need to be.
Yeah, I mean, Cam, this has been an incredible season to watch how much you've been, got that win for yourself to get into the playoffs, and you've really showed out during the playoffs for yourself, now winning in both rounds. I mean, how for yourself can you take this season compared to the past seasons that you've tried to run for this championship?
Yeah, I feel like this season's a little tougher. Just the competition has been a lot more stiff. So the wins are fully guaranteed this year, kind of compared to years past. So there's no kind of luck of the draw or back into wins hearsay. They're definitely earned. So you kind of got to take it pound it back, to say the least. 3 wins is pretty good, especially with all these guys that run each and every week. So when there's 10 plus guys that are capable of winning week in and week out, they're tough to come by. So when you get them, you got to celebrate them, especially when you dominate them. It's even more rare. So like tonight, but looking forward to it. So a lot of great guys. Shout out Travis for the league, and try and keep the title in Cam's name.
We'll see if Mickey Mouse can certainly get it done. Before we let you go, Cam, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, shout out to Mando over at Lap Traffic Podcast. Make sure to go check him out. MCI Graphics for the sponsor night for the race here in Richmond. Travis for hosting Great League. Mom, Dad, grandparents for watching. You guys up in the booth each and every week. So I know y'all put in a lot of work behind the scenes that everyone, including myself, and all the fans don't see. So thank you to y'all, and look forward to the call next week, and hopefully be chatting with you around this time with a trophy in my hand. So thanks.
We can't wait for it, Cam. Hopefully we will be talking to you, as this has been an incredible dominant run here, and the most momentum you could ask for heading to Las Vegas next week. Congratulations on this win, and good luck battling for that championship next week.
All right, thanks, guys. See you next week.
As we go from victory lane, let's take a look at the unofficial results of tonight's run. Like we said, Cameron Sarton led every single lap except for 2, which is a wild stat to think of. Then you got Cameron with Cam's win. You then have Zach Hall in second. That Ken Campbell going to be in third. Ross Stidham takes fourth. That Rob Sherwood gets fifth. Aaron Hill sixth. Seventh goes to Cole Sketty. Nick Holland gets eighth. Ninth goes to that of Travis Dart. Then you've got that of Joshua Altis in 10th. And Trevor, what a run for these drivers. But man, got to be feeling it for those that were outside looking in, knowing that they were practically in a must-win scenario from the drop of the green.
Yeah, Rob Sherwood going for the strategy call. Didn't quite work out for him because of that late caution that was caused by his teammate of Joshua Altis on the new tires, trying to make up as much time as he could. Self-spins it, and you want to talk about a rough playoffs. Those two, that team, came into the playoffs with a lot of momentum, and just from New Hampshire on, just had some bad luck for those two drivers, not able to get quite into the Final Four. Aaron Hale was solidly quiet all season long, made it to the round of 8, which comes up so close to getting to the round of 4 as well. But, Sam, next week, Sarton, Sicchetti, Tatum, Stitz. I mean, that top 4, that race next week at Las Vegas is going to be, I think, a really good race for these guys. And I cannot wait to get to Vegas next week and see who we're going to crown as a champion.
It is excitement in the air. You never know. We could be seeing some drivers bouncing off one another. We've seen plenty of championship drives in this past month in November and here in December for Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Next week, going to be our last broadcast of the year, and you won't want to miss it. It is the final race, the final one to see who's going to be racing and crowning themselves as the Season 3 champion of the Full Send Racing Series. And like you called there, Trevor, 4 drivers. They've made it this far. Ross Tatum, Cameron Sarton, Cole Sicchetti, Chris Stitz. Who is going to get it done? Can't wait for it. But for us up in the booth, for myself, Sam Dyer, for Trevor Earhart, and for Robert Moyer for doing all the production in the background. Thank you for watching us. But hey, we've got one more thing for you. That is our merch here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. The holiday season right around the corner. And this is one of the last times that you could be purchasing your order and have it ready for that of Christmas. So go get your hoodies, go get your t-shirts. It's a little bit cold and brisk out during this time of the year. So get yourself a hoodie, plenty of colors, sizes for you, and go get your merch today. And for us of the booth, thank you for joining us here tonight. Have a good one. We'll see you for our last broadcast of the year next week at Las Vegas.